International tax treaties are kind of like these exclusive deals between countries. They offer some really nice perks, like lower taxes, to get trade and investment flowing. A great example is the agreement between Japan and the United States. But of course, these special deals bring up a pretty big question.
Right, so if you've set up this awesome VIP club with all these great benefits, how do you stop just anyone from waltzing in? How do Japan and the US make sure that their special deal is only for their own residents?
Well, this is where we bump into a problem called treaty shopping. Basically, it's when someone from a completely different country sets up a hollowed out shell company in, let's say, Japan, for the sole purpose of getting the perks of the Japan-US treaty. It is the absolute definition of a club crasher, and yet countries really don't like it.
So, to stop this, the treaty has its own built-in security guard. And for our purposes, we're just going to call him the gatekeeper. Now, in the official legal text, this is Article 22, the Limitation on Benefits Clause, or LOB for short. Think of it as the bouncer for the treaty's VIP club.
And the gatekeeper's mission? It's pretty simple, really. Check everyone's ID at the door. Its entire job is to make sure that anyone trying to get these treaty benefits actually has real, substantial ties to either Japan or the United States. No crashers allowed, period.
Okay, so how does this gatekeeper decide who gets in and who gets turned away? Well, the absolute easiest way to get past the velvet rope is to already be on the pre-approved guest list. These are what the treaty calls qualified residents.
So who gets waived right through, no questions asked? The list is pretty much what you'd expect. If you're an individual citizen, a natural person, you're in. Governments and their central banks, yep, they're on the list. Certain nonprofits and pension funds also get a pass, along with big publicly traded companies. These are the obvious members of the club.
And let's just zoom in on those public companies for a second. To get that automatic VIP status, a company has to be regularly traded on a major recognized exchange. We're talking about places like the NASDAQ in the US or the Tokyo Stock Exchange in Japan. This is just a super clear-cut, objective way for the gatekeeper to verify that a company is legit.
Okay, so that's all fine and dandy for the big public companies. But what about all the privately owned businesses out there? They're not on a stock exchange. So how in the world do they prove to the gatekeeper that they're a genuine member of the club and not just some shell company trying to sneak in?
For these private companies, the gatekeeper has a critical two-part test. First up is the ownership test. As you can see, the rule is that more than half the company, over 50%, has to be owned by people or other companies that are already on the VIP list. Think US or Japanese citizens. The gatekeeper really wants to know who's actually pulling the strings. But just having the right owners isn't enough. They also have to pass part 2, the base erosion test. Here, the gatekeeper takes a look at the company's books to see where the money is actually going. If less than 50% of the company's gross income is being paid out to people outside the club, they pass. This rule stops a company from just being a funnel to pass all its profits to outsiders. And here's the really crucial point. It's not one or the other. A private company has to pass both of these tests. It needs to have that majority local ownership, and it can't be siphoning most of its money out of the country. Only when both of those boxes are checked does the gatekeeper finally add them to the guest list. But wait. What if you have a perfectly legitimate company that, for some complex reason, fails those tests? Maybe it has a weird international ownership structure. Is it just out of luck? Well, not exactly. There's another way in, sort of a side door, known as the active business exception. See, this rule is all about what a company actually does, not just what it looks like on paper. The gatekeeper can decide to grant benefits if the income is coming from a real, substantial, active business that's operating inside Japan or the US. It's a common sense safety valve for companies that are clearly the real deal.
In this slide really gets to the heart of what the gatekeeper is looking for. On one side, you have a legitimate business with real assets, a payroll, active operations, a real presence. On the other side, you might have what amounts to just a mailbox, a paper company that only exists to hold some passive investments. That's the key distinction.
All right, so let's imagine a company has gone through all of this, failed every single test so far, but it still truly believes it's a legitimate operation that deserves the treaty benefits. Is the game over? Nope. There is one last shot. They can go appeal to the club manager.
Now, this manager is officially called the competent authority. In the United States, that's the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service. In Japan, It's the NTA, or National Tax Agency. The company can literally go and present its case directly to them and ask for a special exception. And what is the manager looking for? Well, it all comes down to one thing: intent. As the source material says, they'll grant the benefits if they're convinced that the main reason for the company's structure wasn't just to get those treaty perks. It's the ultimate safeguard, and it's all about purpose. So now that we've gone through all these different hoops and tests and rules, let's just take a step back for a second. Why does this VIP club need such a tough gatekeeper in the first place? Why is all of this so important? Well, this slide really sums up the whole process, the gatekeeper's entire playbook. First, it checks the main guest list. Are you a qualified resident? If not, it asks, okay, are you here for real active business? And if all else fails, it sends you to the manager to make your case. It's this really robust, multi-layered defense system. And the purpose of this whole system is crystal clear. The limitation on benefits clause is there to make absolutely sure the treaty's perks go only to the intended residents of Japan and the US. It's designed to stop tax evasion through shell companies, to encourage real, substantial investment, not just paper shuffling. And at the end of the day, it's all about upholding the fairness and integrity of the entire tax system. Which leaves us with a final, really big thought. These rules, this whole gatekeeper concept, it was largely designed for a world of physical factories and clear corporate structures. But today, in our world of digital companies, intangible assets, and borderless finance, can the gatekeeper still effectively guard the door? That's probably the biggest question facing international tax policy right now.